I'm Laura with a face mask on. This is pink guava. I'm Laura with makeup on. And I'm Laura with styled out hair and a cute outfit on.
And this is me as a Disney princess filtered version of myself.
All of these versions of me are 100% really me. I'm still Laura, but is one of them more or less authentic? And how does each version of these different Lauras that you've just seen before you affect my personal brand as the founder and owner of Laura Pearman Creative? It's time to talk about authenticity here on Mwah TV, and in particular, a very common branding mistake where branding authenticity is misinterpreted. Are you ready? Go a little bit more specific and say that it's brand misinterpretation. It's too philosophical. Say it with a lift. Right. I can do that in less words. Why use one word, Laura, when you can use 500? Right. We live in a time where the topic of authenticity is somewhat of a hot potato. This is a direct result of a lot of technological advancements that have changed how we perceive hyper-realism. A great example of this is that we can all create a filtered, more perfect version of ourselves with some really simple free apps that change and filter photography and videography now all in our phone. And it's been proven time and time again that the pressure of being perceived as perfect has had an awful effect on the world's mental health. I would go as far to say that we are experiencing a time of a mental health crisis. Add to this the introduction to the metaverse with an extra optional addition of virtual reality, and it can start to feel like grasping for real authenticity is getting to the point where it's almost an impossible feat. What does it really mean to be authentic when we are creatures and businesses with lots of different facets to our personalities? And what does that do to when we're thinking about showing up as a brand or as a personal brand? If you're so confused by this point that you don't even know or you don't feel sure what your official party line is when it comes to the common conversation starter of authenticity, or maybe you feel like this is just too big of a question, it's too much philosophy, it's too much of a big idea, you're a busy business owner, you haven't got time to think about it, then I promise you, by the end of this episode, you're going to have a much clearer understanding of how this huge topic really does impact your business. Most importantly, I want to leave you feeling confident and comfortable about where you stand when it comes to authenticity in your branding. So let's begin by talking about why this is such a common branding mistake. Like I just alluded to there, the concept of authenticity is a deep one. In its most basic format, this is a big question that feels very philosophical. But add to this where we have more and more interpretations and creations of what reality itself even is, it becomes more and more complex as well. Authenticity of personality is more of a sliding scale of comfort. That's the way that I get my brain around it. So you would be on this side of the scale if the idea of being authentic in any way felt incredibly uncomfortable. You experienced extreme discomfort. Maybe you're a big fat liar. Maybe you're a criminal mastermind. But being open about your reality and authentic self, and also honest about your authentic self, puts you here. You hate it. Everything about it you hate. Whereas on this side of the scale, you're extremely comfortable. You could have a reality TV series. You're not bothered about sharing every detail of your life, and actually it makes you feel more like a real person and more of your honest state on this side of the scale. You fit somewhere on this scale. Now, the world is a wonderful tapestry of lots of different types of people, and that means that we've got lots of different types of personalities across the human race, which is fantastic. This means that one person's idea of what it means to be really authentic is unarguably going to be different to another person's idea of what it means to be really authentic. So when it comes to determining and navigating and then figuring out where you're going to sit as a brand with your authenticity, you can see how this becomes a little bit confusing, especially if your brand is underpinned with a workforce or more than one person leading the ship. And I don't care what any guru out there says about, oh yeah, just throw in some vulnerability, talk about the political landscape a little bit, attribute yourself to a certain cause, that makes you authentic. It doesn't, because I think of those different personalities. Someone's idea of being truly authentic about a cause that's attributed to your brand message is going to be at a different scale to another person. So it's about understanding in the first instance, where are you on the scale of discomfort? And if you're enjoying this episode so far, why don't you go ahead right now and give me a thumbs up so I know that you're enjoying episodes like this. I'll make more like this and less like the ones that you don't give me a thumbs up for. You really are in control. What happens when you ignore this misinterpretation of authenticity? If you've just recognized in my little bit of a crash course introduction to authenticity that this is something you're ignoring, maybe you've been aware that you're ignoring it and filing it to the worry about later column of your massive long to-do list, then I think you probably fit into one of the following three camps. Listen up and see which one is you. Camp one is where you are directly or indirectly part of this authenticity problem that we have. So you might be doing this in a subconscious way, or you might be absolutely being intentional by it. Or you're a victim of peer pressure, but let me know if this is you. If you are currently creating posts about living a perfect life in a perfect house with a perfect family and a perfect business that's just had a perfect month of turnover in a perfect year of profit, I'm sorry to tell you, love, you're being part of the problem. You're causing part of this mental health crisis. And if you're not actively creating it and you think, well, no, Laura, don't say that. I'm not doing that. You're a victim of this crisis that we're in. And, here's a big hug. So let's pretend you're part of in camp one. Your business posts might look like this. Here is another one of our perfect customers who had a perfect experience from start to finish with our completely perfect service. Everything was perfect for them every step of the way. You could be like this perfect customer if you decided to be more perfect by subscribing to our perfect business. Give us some of your perfect money and you can be part of our perfect club. Or another common one is, our business is really perfect. Look, we just won on a perfect award, and here we are on a perfect night out where everyone is completely perfectly styled out. Here's the perfect shiny award, and we'll be back in a couple of months to tell you more about what is perfect about our brand. Not only is this incredibly boring and dated by this point when you're thinking about social media in particular, it's also completely fake and inauthentic. I refuse to believe that at that night where you all went out to get your award, that everything was perfect. Really? Were the toilets perfect? Was the service perfect? Did everybody have no wardrobe malfunctions? Was the meal perfect? I mean, come on, it wasn't perfect. It isn't real if it's perfect, is it? We could go into a lot of deep literary talk about the idea of perfection being non-existent without imperfection. If you want to pick up that philosophical chat with me, pop me a DM on social or leave me a comment and I'll send you a comment back. We haven't got time for that right now, but perfection is actually impossible. There's no such thing. When you subscribe to this line of branded communications in your business, you are inadvertently telling everyone who takes in that content that you are a brand that lies. It doesn't matter to your prospects that those lies may be a result of peer pressure, and actually in all of this you're the victim and you're just giving lip service to this idea of perfection. When subterfuge or deceit is created, trust is lost. You are firmly in camp number two if you know that you're just playing it safe when it comes to authenticity. You're probably avoiding this huge topic of authenticity as a brand. And you're taking all of your prompts from what other people in your industry are doing, especially on social media, or it could be in the style of your copy, the amount of visibility of your leadership team, all of those things. You take a look around, see what everyone else is doing, and sort of emulate that to keep up with the Joneses. And maybe one of the team went on a course about authenticity, or at the senior level, it was said, yeah, let's try and be more authentic. But that's kind of diluted its way down to the point where the person who's putting out posts or creating content for you of any nature as a brand, there's this underwritten rule of playing it safe. So your idea of authenticity might be like, ho hum, we hate Mondays. Or another really popular one is, yay, we've just got coffee for the office. Yes, to some extent, you are showing vulnerability and a little bit more personality there. That's right, you are. You're not subscribing to the 24/7 communication of perfectionism, because if you were perfect, Mondays would be just as exciting as Fridays for your team, and you wouldn't need coffee because you have perfect energy levels the whole time and you're already united as a team, so you don't need team building. But you can see there how beige those ideas around authenticity or vulnerability are. It's not fully authentic, is it? Your customers are intelligent and very astute and very refined at rapidly judging their options when they're in a buying process. And that is just as important, by the way, if you're a B2B brand, they are doing that as consumers all the time. So they apply that same logic when they're making business decisions as well. And they're going to recognize straight away, oh yeah, that's you ticking the vulnerability box. Or there's you trying to be more authentic, but it's a little bit cautious. And I see that every 5 seconds as I'm scrolling. This isn't very divisive. It has quite a blur sort of effect. But I will add to that, though, that over time you are reducing the opportunities for these customers and regular clients even to turn into die-hard advocates who absolutely love your brand. You're giving nobody any reason to hate you, but on the reverse of that, you're giving nobody the reason to love you either. Camp 3 is a really interesting one. So let's explore that and see if you fit in here. Maybe Camp 1 and 2 are not like you at all, and you think that you're completely at the other end of the spectrum here. You feel very deeply about a lot of causes, like the state of the world makes you cry on a regular basis. You are very impassioned and emotions deeply affect you. So maybe you're a very empathetic person, or maybe your brand operates with a lot of empathy or highly sensitive people, and you are naturally very attuned to energy in that way as a brand. With that line of reasoning, I'm willing to bet that in any conversation, whether it's a quick chat after a networking session or even in a business meeting, you are really open about sharing your tuppence worth about a controversial subject, and you're free and easy with that opinion. And because you care so damn much, you probably support a wide array of different causes because they all really matter to you. Now, this might be truly who you are, but from a branding point of view, playing it in this over-exaggerated way through brand communications is going to start to seem a little bit too exaggerated after a period of time for people. It's a lot like that story where the little boy cries wolf. The reaction and perception of your brand is that people are going to see you as a personal brand, or even the brand, as a little bit of a drama queen. Like, oh, what the harping on about now? Yeah, whatever. Shush, pipe down. You're always bleating on about something. Those kinds of perceptions will be what comes up after a period of time if you're jumping from one thing to the next. And the logic for any customer or client is, well, if they flip-flop this impassioned about causes or the news, can you imagine how much of a nightmare it would be to lodge a complaint with them if I was to give them my money? It's not worth the hassle. I don't need the drama. I'll go with this other safer bet. So you could say all three of those camps are pretty undesirable, but I'm willing to bet that you probably fit in one of those three. You can see there that no matter which camp, you are misinterpreting the idea of what it is to be authentic. And that's exactly what this is about. So let's get into helping you with this problem. How to overcome this. When it comes to overcoming your discomfort around authenticity, I have 10 key questions, and these are the questions I ask my real clients who pay me money to help them with this. So settle in. If you want to grab a pen, grab a pen. You might want to pause this and make some notes. The first question is, what are your weaknesses and flaws? List them out, brainstorm them. You can go into full depth from the fact that your left big toe toenail isn't as straight as your right. Go into every single flaw that you think you have. And then I want you to go into every single weakness and flaw you have as a business, as well as a person. So this is if you're a personal brand. When you've listed all of your flaws and weaknesses out, I want you to list next to those flaws and weaknesses how you feel about them. So go back to the crazy toenail example I just came up with. Does that really make you weep at night? Does it make you feel embarrassed about wearing sandals around the pool at summertime? Like, really go into how emotions come up for you when you think about this weakness. Brainstorm it all out. So if you're a team, I want to know personal weaknesses and I want to know what they think are the weaknesses of the business. Go through everyone. Get it out. This is a cool little team building exercise. Nobody likes to reveal their weaknesses. So being in a situation where you do that really pulls people together. That's another little benefit of this, but really get into the emotions of it all. The next one is to ask you, where do each of these stories of emotions around your weaknesses fit on my scale of discomfort? So here it is again, as a reminder. This side is extremely uncomfortable or extreme discomfort, and this scale is like overjoyed, beyond comfort, really delighted by the idea of sharing this. Place each of your weaknesses and the stories and emotions that come up for you on this scale. It might be easier if you're working in a team to group this. So your groupings around comfort might be a board for stickies that are called, hell no, I'm not talking about that. Or that's a little bit too far for my liking. Uncomfortable and nervous, a little bit nervous, a little bit unsure, or yeah, I'm willing to share that. Challenge these placements with yourself or as a team, especially if you've filed everything into the hell no column or extreme discomfort scale. Next, I want you to take a fresh look at this. So what are the weaknesses and flaws of our customers? What flaws and weaknesses do they usually have? And again, I want you to really go into the emotions behind this. How do they feel about having those weaknesses or flaws? Are they totally ignorant to it until a company like you comes along? Are they affected by this financially? Is this ruining their lives? Like, really get into the detail of emotions that go with these flaws that your customers have. And if you've got no idea about your customer flaws or weaknesses, then that is a big red alert sign that you need to do some more work around this part of your branding. You need to stop this project right now and start doing an in-depth customer audit, or take an opportunity to create a project where you're going to start getting some really juicy feedback from all of the stakeholders of your brand, including your customers. So the next line is to think about, what do we feel about strongly as a business or as a personal brand? Really think about causes that matter to you on a personal level, and then we're going to start wading through them to figure out what works well for you as a brand. A really helpful model to follow to do this is the absolute classic marketing model known as PESTLE. Let's take a look at that now. P stands for political, so political causes, issues, ethical matters. E is environmental, the environment, sustainability, what's going on in your environment as a business. S is for social, could be wider social issues, could be that you're part of society with what you do as a business or as a charity. T, technological, are you on the cutting edge of something technical? What does that do for the rest of the world? Where are the issues around that? Are you on the antithesis? Do you hate technology and actually you uphold a vintage way of living? L is for legal. So what are the laws going on? Are you being an activist against laws as a business? And E is for economical. So what are you contributing to the economy from a financial sense, from a moral sense? Is there something that you're doing to boost the economy? Where do you stand on that? Using this, we can work out quite quickly what you feel quite strongly about. Then the all-important question is, which of these issues that we've just uncovered matters to us the most as a business, and therefore which one do we want to encompass into our brand? You can really rigor test this with some more questions. Why do the ones that don't fit feel like a bad fit? And then the next question is, how can we make these fit with the brand? What are the variables that need to change to make this fit nicely or dovetail in with what we do as a business? What does that even look like? What does that look like? Does it mean that we start sponsoring something? Like, what is the outcome? How do we live and breathe this? If your mind is blown and you don't know where to start with this, or you're really hitting a wall, you can't get past it on your own, why don't you go ahead and take advantage of my free service, a Cyber Cocktail? This is a free 30-minute consultancy service or just an easy chat service where I can help you get into the crux of what you're dealing with right now with your authenticity. To book a Cyber Cocktail, just head on over to www.laurapearman.com/cyber-cocktail. Pick a date and a time on the calendar, fill in the form, and you're ready to rock. If you're still feeling some resistance or you're unsure of where to prioritize this in your big old list of things that you've got to do for your brand, let me make it really clear for you. So let's take a look at the key benefits of getting clear about authenticity as a brand are for your business. One of the scary benefits of behaving with an increased sense of authenticity as a brand is that doing so is going to turn people off from your brand and business. This might result in a sudden increase in unsubscribes, and it might also result in lower inquiries. And of course, on face value, that feels pretty scary. These are signs that show your authenticity is really working. It's striking a nerve. You're actually starting to actively repel the wrong people away from your brand and business. When you repel the wrong people away, you are making space for a lot more of the right people to come in and enjoy your business. And I'm talking about people who are going to fall head over heels with your particular nuanced flavor of authenticity. That's going to look like an increase in lifelong subscribers who really engage with everything you create for them, and a much higher conversion rate on those inquiries with even higher sales points. If you've enjoyed exploring authenticity with me today, then you are going to want to take a look at these episodes up next. I'll see you next time. Mwah.
Now, before you go anywhere, don't forget to subscribe. Mwah.